LisbonTalks, Universidade Lusófona. Conversations around the diversity of Portuguese cinema and the festival's focuses and retrospectives. In this edition, dedicated to new trends, subgenres, and ways of making cinema.
Okay, well, welcome to this panel discussion as part of Indie Lisboa Industry Talks. We are sitting here and talking about new matters and languages, deconstructed cinema. My name is Ulrich Ziemons. I am one of the co-directors of the Forum Expanded section at the Berlinale. And I am here with 4 filmmakers, whom I will quickly introduce. There's Sílvia das Fadas. She's a filmmaker, researcher, curator, and professor. And her film, The House Is Not Yet Built, won the award for Best Portuguese Short Film at Indie Lisboa in 2019. Her most recent film is a feature-length film called Luz Clarão Fulgor. And then there's something in brackets that I am blanking on. It's from 2020, and she is the co-founder and programmer of Cinema Fulgor, which we will hopefully speak a bit about. So filmmaker, he's taking part in Indie Lisboa this year with his film Supernatural, which premiered at the Berlinale Forum earlier this year. And his previous short films have shown widely at international festivals. Among them is Flourish, made in 2017, which also was awarded here at the festival with the New Talent Award. We also have Frederike, one half of Neozoon, the duo Neozoon. Neozoon have been producing mostly, I don't think exclusively, but mostly found footage video works for cinema and gallery exhibitions, which are a lot of times sourced from images found on the internet, and with a special focus on human-animal relations. And their film Fragments is part of the Light Cone special program presented here at Indie Lisboa this year, which brings us to the 5th member of the group, Emmanuel Lefrant, director of Lightcone, a Paris-based distribution initiative for experimental cinema, and also a filmmaker and film performer in his own right, working with analog film, which he completely produces himself. And he's a part of the collective Nominoe that creates analog film and projection performances. Hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, we have 3 mics. We will share, try and share the mics. Okay, so we were asked to speak about, as I said, new matters and languages, deconstructed cinema, and about different types of raw material that is used in your cinematic practices, be that found footage sourced from different sources, the internet, TikTok, memes, or analog archival footage, amateur video, and also we want to talk about the different venues and spaces, contexts that these works are shown in. So I think all of you work across disciplines in some way or other, and maybe we'd start with that. Maybe, Jorge, we could start with you. Your last film grew out of a performance project, actually. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that. So your work in film and performance and how these sort of mutually influence each other.
Mm-hmm. Hello, future. I was coming here for this talk, and I was thinking that actually, well, I have this film presenting right here in Indie Lisboa that is called Supernatural, and I was thinking that the thing that is less natural for me is the act of shooting. I never feel comfortable with a camera, or I feel that the camera is always very invasive, and it's quite complicated for me, always the act of shooting. And actually, where I feel more comfortable, it's in the process of editing, which actually is the opposite of what I think most of the filmmakers and directors. It's the opposite of what they normally think about, because normally the editing is always a process that they struggle a lot, that they deal with their own insecurities. And I feel that during editing is the process that I can feel more free. But to be able to have that type of freedom during editing, I need to go to this process of shooting. Because I also work as the editor for other filmmakers, but there is always this, it's very different to work on the editing of another filmmaker and edit on my own images. And so when I'm shooting, actually I think I always pretend that it's not me who is making the films itself. So I connect a lot with when I'm editing some images and sounds that I always think that it wasn't me who made them. Like I could be found footage or things from the internet. And actually also the internet and this free access to a lot of different mediums, it's a big part of my work, because since I'm on a computer editing a film, at the same time I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram just taking time and forgetting that I'm working. So immediately everything starts to be everything. So when an idea that I see on TikTok with someone crying, for example, I immediately put it in my film, or a sound that I hear somewhere on the computer, I bring it to the film. And so my process of working, it's connected with the process of me being in a computer. Another thing, it's about the formats that I use, and I believe that in my work, form is it's never about the form itself. So the form comes from the process of what I'm thinking. For example, in this film, my last film, this Supernatural, I knew that I needed to have different perspectives. And what I feel when I have one type of camera is that we only have a very specific type of look or way of looking at one thing. So I was working with, and I knew that I wanted to work with a lot of different bodies. And when I'm saying bodies, I'm talking about human bodies, the sea, animals, flowers, etc., different type of images. So I needed to have in the medium itself these different types of views and these types of bodies, because every camera, it's a different body. And so since I don't have this natural way of having a camera, I started to think about cameras that could be in the most natural way for me. So I knew that all of the cameras that I was going to use on the film needed to fit in my hands. So it would be a phone, a mini DV from the 90s, a Super 8 camera, etc. So that the camera would have a connection with my own body and with my own perspective. But the question was not about this, right? The question was about performance and cinema.
Yeah, but this is also already very interesting. Feel free to just steer it in.
But maybe we can change, because I don't want to talk more right now.
But maybe picking up on what you said about this idea of you know, these different types of bodies and how they relate to each other in different ways. I think that's maybe something where we can connect to Neo Zoon's work. You know, this relation that is sort of like, you're looking at these hierarchies that exist between humans and animals and how they are maybe sometimes inverted, and you do that through a lot of, as I said, the footage that comes from the internet, and it's mostly, I think it's this user-generated footage. It's not, right. So maybe. Yeah, maybe you can talk a little bit about that. Like, what is the interest in that type of footage as opposed to other found footage, you know, practices that rely heavily on sort of like industrially produced images?
So yeah, we are always more interested in the cameras of the others. So I'm interested in the what are they saying, what are they thinking about themselves, and how do they present themselves. Of course, in the internet, and you can name it, it's always YouTube. And there is a development in the last years, or last 10 years, more and more in the selfie thing, more and more always to put the camera on yourself, on themselves. And concerning the film here in the program, I don't know if you refer to that, the Fragments film, no more to the human-animal related. Okay, so yeah, it's not so much about how people look at, maybe, of course, okay, I'm struggling. It's yeah, how they look at other species. So that's really interesting for us, and we are always interested in this human-animal relationship and how they display, how this is displayed, and we are doing kind of collage out of that. And in my opinion, there's so many footage out there, and it's absolutely not necessary to contribute more. So really, I mean that. And I think it's economical and ecological at the same time to do that.
It's thinking that is developed by many found footage filmmakers. Yes, like in this era where we produce images in one day, that is more numerous than what we were able to produce in 1 century before. Yeah. What do we need to shoot? I mean, if you go to Venezia, all the images you're going to shoot have been shot by some other people before you, obviously. So.
Yeah, of course. That's what I would like to say. That's the reason. It's economical and ecological. Also, ecological thinking is very, very important for us. And yeah, and by the way, I don't have the time to do it by myself. And it's you can't do this. You can't do this with actors. It's not the same. It's also a content thing. It's not absolutely not interesting to do this. So, yeah.
I wanted to react on just a quick parenthesis, but on what you said, the fact that the camera is very invasive, and so this idea of the camera being the prolongation of the body, and then using your phone or whatever small device. I have a friend teaching visual art, visual studies in Germany, and he had this exercise with the students, and so they could do anything they wanted, but the only constraint he gave to those students was if you use your phone, then you don't come back with vertical images. And the reason behind was because the human body, we have on our face 2 eyes that are horizontal, not vertical. And I was thinking of your film Fragments, where it's interesting because I think the constraints this professor gave to his students maybe a little bit too much, because especially in your film, you can embed those vertical images to fit the rectangle that is horizontal. So I thought it was interesting to point this out. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe like these sort of self-imposed constraints that can be made very productive maybe that's something where we can bring in you, Sílvia, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're working exclusively on 60mm film when you shoot yourself, and I think you shoot. You shoot yourself, and it seems like you are enjoying this process more than Jorge. I don't know. Maybe. Can you talk a bit about that sort of decision on this sort of like format side, and maybe also tell us a little bit about the joys of shooting, and Jorge can maybe overcome his anxieties.
Well, I shoot primarily on 60mm. I started with Super 8, and I also in art school, I work with video, but 16 is really my medium of choice, and I also edit on the Steenbeck, and until this new film that I've been working in the past years, the sound was also analog. So also edit on Mag, and but for this project now is digital, which is interesting and complicated at the same time. What can I say? I really enjoy shooting myself with the 16mm camera, and editing is much more. It's where I find all the troubles. And but I think with the film that I've been working now for 3 years, maybe more, Luz, Clarão, Fulgor. Or Light, Blaze, Fulgor. Augur is for a non-hierarchical framing and flourishing. That's the subtitle. I think I found more freedom in making films, in the way that I'm constantly filming and editing and sharing the film, and not having the obligation to have a finished film that becomes very much a product that then is circulates in festivals mostly, or with this film, she's also 2 screens and 3 in the last version, showing this film that I called a film in metamorphosis. That is taking different shapes and being shared with different soundtracks or different lengths, that also evolves as life. I find more freedom. I don't know, and I was surprised that festivals wanted to program it. But of course, I'm not opposed to festivals. But I find more freedom in. I think we have to think where films should circulate or can circulate, and it's interesting that we can show it in the gallery, of course, but in the streets or in industrial buildings or in a cellar or farming places or in the fields, and I'm interested in that having mobile routes, that the film itself can be more free, also in the ways it's circulated and it's shared.
Is it though, when you say that it is several screens, is it a type of performance? So are you operating the projectors? Do you have to be present for the projection of the film?
Yes, at this point, yes. There's 2 projectors or 3, and I read also. There's a live reading, and when my collaborator Robert Blatt, who is a sound artist, is present or not. Sometimes the sound is live and pre-recorded also, but it depends. Every screening is slightly different or more dramatically different, but
I think that's an interesting sort of idea, or it's an interesting question, the question of how do these works then circulate in the different forms that can take, sometimes sort of predicated on, for example, in the case, I know, Emmanuel, you work also on analog film, and you prefer showing it also analog, if possible, but it becomes, it becomes rarer that this is possible, and this is sort of like one restriction, even though it is sort of like in a format that used to be a standard at some point, right? So that maybe you can talk about that, but I would also be interested in this idea, especially if you are working, with these images that are circulating on the internet, how you feel about then reinserting your works your combinations of these or deconstructions of these back into that cycle.
I've been working in analog film for the past 20 years, shooting on Super 8, 16 and 35. But it's true, I found it very frustrating lately. So you were there in IMAF in Osnabrück. I think that was maybe the only 35 print of the whole competition. I was a little bit suspicious about, is the screening gonna go all right? And so I went to the screening booth before and asked the two projectionists about making a test. And the projector was already loaded. I said, well, there's two things that you really need to pay attention to, the focus, and the image has to be centered because it starts with a little dot, and if it's not perfectly focused, then the first 20 seconds are going to be out of focus. And they showed me, they were very convincing. They showed me we did a test, this is exactly how it's going to happen. And the screening started, and the point was not in the middle, and I was blurry. So that's a good lesson. Even if people are telling you it's exactly like this, you should tell them, well, then show me. But it's not the only frustration. It's now you have... so your film is screened inside a program, and so the savoir-faire is going away. I do a lot of screenings in Paris. I always project the films myself. I mean, not my films, but the films that are screened or programmed through Lycon. And so the projectionists, they know how to press play on a DCP player, basically, but they don't know how to use the 35 projector anymore. And most of the time, there's no 16 projector in the booth, no longer. But I remember the film before. It was the Pays Dévasté. It was a CinemaScope 35 print. And most of the times when I was showing it in festivals, it was on a 16:9 screen. So you have like the youngers, they may have shot on film, but they finish on DCP. So the image is super bright, and it takes the whole space on the screen. And then you have your 35 CinemaScope print that you paid a fortune for. And it's smaller because it's like a little stamp because you don't have the width on the screen, and the projector is slightly out of focus, and the lamp, since it hasn't run for a long time, the lamp is not as powerful as the DCP projector. So I found it very frustrating. But still, maybe I have like the discourse on an old dude, looking at the past, but I still feel different when I see a film projected on film. I still like the vibration, the obturator, the movement of the film strip inside the projector's gate. So I'm very attached to that. To me, it's like a very different way of showing moving images, so I'm still attached to that. But yeah, it's becoming harder and harder every day.
Yeah, please.
Quickly, just want to, but would you think that, I mean, there are places or there are initiatives by filmmakers like yourself who are working with with this medium to kind of also, they're working at preserving the knowledge also, and making it still available. But do you feel that, speaking also about this, okay, there's the festivals, and there's museums, art spaces that more and more also show moving image, and there's also an interest in analog film there, I feel. But do you feel that that's the space where that knowledge is that could be a space where that knowledge is preserved, or is that not the case?
I think it's going away also in those spaces, because I'm asked often at Lycon where you see this request. for showing films in an exhibition, like running in loop for 3 months. I remember myself, like 10 years ago, insisting for them to show the film in an original format, pointing out that you don't show a poster of a Picasso painting, but the painting itself. And that the video copy of a film that was shot on 16 or 35 is a copy. It's a different thing. But they don't bother anymore because they need a technician, they need a 16mm projector, they need a looper. They no longer know how to deal with this. And I don't even insist anymore. I just rent digital files because it's too much fight, and I can't convince them anymore. So, but we still have, a few pretty known artists who still work on film, as you know. I mean, from Gusmão e Paiva here in Portugal to Tacitadine in Great Britain, but they're mostly coming from the contemporary art world, and they have like those means that we don't have in the experimental cinema circles. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm not the right person to contribute something to this because I've never been attached to technique or such things. It's not necessary for me. I always, or we always, I think, go the easiest way. Yeah, maybe we can put it like that. But of course, it's not easy to work such a long. It's really a long phase of research. Sometimes a year, and then it's only a 3-minute piece at the end. But the technical thing, it's not. I have so many friends who love to hear LPs, and I don't understand that. So I'm not the right guy to contribute here something. Yeah.
I actually live in a contradiction between the 2 points of views, because but there is something that you said that I want to bring, but just to explain this contradiction, because I am in a place that I want to. I'm a big fan of Nathaniel Dorsky, and I love to wait to be able to see his films that are not in Cara a Carga, for example. And
some of them.
Well, not in the. I never find.
No, we're fighting against it, but
okay. No, but
it has been.
Yeah, but there is something magical of having that, of this waiting to
you need to wait and see
it
properly projected. Yeah.
But at the same time, we are in a place and we are living in a world that's also, and you use an expression that you said they don't bother anymore. I think they don't bother anymore about anything, about cinema in general, and things are changing very fast. If you look to festivals, Locarno is not the same anymore. What is happening in Rotterdam, things are changing very fast, and I think we are in a point.
That's good.
Exactly, and that's what I was going to say. In the other parts of the, because I'm also again. I want to live right now in a place that we don't know where we're going, but that the things are changing. But I don't see that the things, even if they are changing, we are not changing to anything. So the things are, for example, I believe that cinema, and even if we think about art house films, the more conventional art house films, are going to these platforms on television, etc., etc. And you were talking about vertical images, between vertical images and horizontal images. And there is something that I feel very funny on the television when they put a vertical image, is that the television don't accept a vertical image.
No.
They always put like blurry
thing on the sides. Yeah, it's
which
funny.
I think it's a contradiction.
It's like a standard they put every time. This
exactly.
It's really weird.
Because we live a lot with these vertical images, but when we see in the format of a television that it's horizontal, we don't accept that the vertical images can be in a horizontal. Yeah. So when I'm saying that we are trying to change, but we don't know where are we going, I'm talking about that we want to change. We don't know exactly where are we going.
Well, I think there are still, for me, it's still very important to show analog film on analog. Super 8 and Super 8, 16 on 16, digital on video on video, of course.
It's political, no?
Yeah, it's political. And there are, because the digitalization of the world is programmed, was and is and keeps being programmed, and we have a saying on that. Or we accept everything, but I don't think we should. So there's of course limitations, and very difficult to find a good projectionist, and institutions or film museums or cine clubs that or microcinemas that care, but there are still places and people that care.
A few places, but very few now.
And we should rely and support on them, and also. Create our own structures and become more autonomous, I think. Or ask for, also as spectators, not just as filmmakers, but as spectators, to ask for, to see films in their original format. To ask more. I don't see many asking, no? Or reclaim or complaining that why are we looking at a digital file or a DVD instead of print in cinematheques, for instance, in places that have that have the knowledge and the equipment.
Well, the knowledge is going away at the cinematheque as well. I mean, maybe not here, but in French cinematheque, for instance, they got rid of the 16mm projector, for instance, like a few years ago already. So it depends, but I find it tiring after 15 years to go through those explanations all the time, especially with the young generation. I should maybe be more patient and take more time to explain. But I remember the other day I had like a class from an Ivy League university visiting. They have like those fancy workshops, like Super 8 filmmaking in Paris. So they were coming for a visit at Lycon to see an archive, and we showed them different formats. We explained how you maintain an archive of 6,000 films, stuff like that. And they saw some films by Cécile Fontaine on a light table. So it's like fascinating. Wow, most light by package. And then we project the film. And I remember the student very seriously. He came to me and he touched the projector, and he said, "Wow, this is a new medium." Really? He said it very seriously. For him, that was like a discovery. And he was totally fascinated by the object itself. So maybe it's going to come back and DCP is going to disappear very soon.
That happened in the screenings that I started recently with Cinema Fulgor in Alentejo. So it's in different places in the countryside, on the inland at least. And
they've never seen that before.
Yeah, it was the first time for some spectators, for some people to see a 16mm projection. Of course, the projector then becomes really an object. I don't know if they look at the screen or
but it's an
at
old
the projector that is inside the room.
It's really an old feeling because it's not like we are 70 years old or showing like the young generation born like 15 years ago that the stuff we were using in the past or whatever. So it's very fast rhythm. These changes from analog to digital.
It's true, but it can also be. I mean, not reverted, but can also be, I don't know, changes.
Exactly.
There are a lot of artist labs. In Portugal, we are starting one. Right
I
now.
know.
Laboratório Experimental da Torre.
Yeah, I know that.
And which is in a medieval tower in Porto, and brings together quite a lot of filmmakers and artist filmmakers.
No, that's really the point. I mean, we keep on saying for the past 20 years that one doesn't have to erase the other. So there's like cohabitation possible, and both things are different. And I'm not against digital. I like watching films also on digital. But I don't think we should decide, well, digital is coming, so analog should disappear, basically. And this is why in a festival, when you show all sorts of films, I think a very big effort should be put on how the films are going to be projected. It's not fair to show an analog film like slightly out of focus with like a wrong parallax and not enough light, and then a DCP in a superb conditions.
Yeah.
It's really like you feel like you know.
For sure. Yeah, festivals have a responsibility that they should also be aware of in that. I mean, any exhibition space for that matter. Yeah, I want to maybe we can combine that a little bit, because it's, you know, this question of doing things the right way in a way, you know, is about also maintaining a little bit like the integrity of that space of the cinema, you know, and in that case your film. And then I want to maybe connect that to what you were saying, Jorge, about the, you know, the upright image not fitting into the other image, and maybe ask you, Friederike, and your work with Neozoon, transposing those images, those YouTube images onto a cinema screen in a cinema space within a festival. I'm wondering what that does to those images, because there's a value. Obviously, you know, we're talking about there's a value or a validity that is kind of that these images are.
Belongs to some specific places. Yeah.
Exactly, but also that sort of like seeing something on that big screen kind of validates an image, or, you know, transforms it in a way. And especially maybe if that image wasn't made for that screen. So, yeah.
So normally those images, everyone has it on the phone or on the computer. So the situation in the cinema is, of course, completely different because of the size, as like every film. But I'm more interested in the question, what is the difference between a cinema screening and an art piece, for example, when you have the work in the gallery. And for us, it was really a new experience. We are coming from the art field and studied art, fine arts, and to watch the films, there's sometimes we made a kind of installation, and there's also a version for the cinema, because the festivals are so nice and show our films in the last years. But the situation to sit in a chair and you cannot move, and you watch it, and
you're forced to watch it from the beginning until the end.
Yes, in a program with
tons of different things that you're not found of.
Yeah, and we are really impatient people, and then before and after, maybe in the worst case, there can be also an animation out of form, or what it is, Knete. Nothing against that, but it's very strange sometimes, because you are only part of a curated program, and sometimes it's, yeah, it feels strange. So, and when you have the ability to move around, I think that's really the question. Can I decide by myself how long I would like to stay, or can I go away? Can I come back? Can I have the sound very loud? Can I have it more from the distance? That are questions for me very interesting, and more so. And concerning what you have said, and so it's absolutely okay that there, for me, of course, it's okay, and for everyone else too, that there must be people to preserve those old techniques and so on. But I do not know about what time span we are speaking here. I think if we are, it's not about to praise digitalization or something like that. Also not in our films, but where are we going? So all together making films. Who should it watch? Why? So that I think really, because we are only thinking, in my case maybe only of so small group of peoples, and it would be, maybe I'm lost, but I hope.
Maybe we should be doing film just for Netflix, or what do you mean exactly?
No, I don't talk about that.
No, it was maybe that was something that was that my question before kind of was. I was hoping to lead to that. You know, the question of reinserting these images then into that same online medium. Is that something you do? Like, how do you think of your audiences? Like, for whom are you making these films for? I mean, that's a, you know.
I'm making it for younger people, of course, also because I realized always in the cinema, it's not the main goal to make it for younger people, of course not. But I realized that the younger people, or today at the masterclass, nobody knows about all the YouTube phenomena. There were some people, they never heard about ASMR or something like that. I have to explain it, and I was really it was astonishing to me that there are. And the younger people, maybe, I don't know how old you have to be to know ASMR, but there's so much going on, and I think it's necessary to digest it again, those pictures, because we are in a flood of pictures all the days, every day, and I think one has to do something against that. So.
But in this period of time where people have problems concentrating on something, like you keep on changing the channel when you watch TV, you keep on going from one website to the other. Don't you find it interesting to be stuck in a movie theater and to watch a film from the beginning until the end? I mean, apparently you were, yeah.
Of course, there are films. It's absolutely necessary to do that, of course. Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's not only I don't think about making everything accessible because of the impatience of the time. So that's not what I mean, but to stay connected, maybe. You can think about that?
I mean, in relation to that and to what you Jorge, mentioned before about the Dorsky films, Nathaniel Dorsky, the waiting to see something, the longing for to see some films, no? That are not, I think that's very important, that not everything is available or has to be available at all times.
Right away, yeah.
And that's something important too.
But what I think it's funny, and you were talking about ASMR videos, and what I think it's funny about ASMR videos, and this, I don't know if you know, these very long computer videos when someone is just talking to the audience of YouTube while they play for 7 and 8 hours, and there are a lot of people that they watch that for 3, 4, 5 hours in a row. But to see a 32-minute film of Nathaniel Dorsky without sound, it's completely...
It's very difficult for most people.
It's very difficult, and it's something that it's...
It's a completely different audience, right?
But it always has been a different audience, right? I mean, we also shouldn't shouldn't imply that, I don't know, 15 years ago there were like thousands of people going to a Nathaniel Dorsky screening.
But my question
always been specialized audience.
Is what it's so relaxing about watching ASMR, but it's not relaxing of being in a cinema that it's completely dark and just watching flowers in the sun. That's what I don't understand. Why is that so different?
Where is the difference between the two? Yeah.
Maybe that's the other side of accessibility. That maybe films do not circulate enough. Also, certain films. Yeah. Certain filmmakers, certain works are not visible or are only visible in specific contexts.
Or maybe if you finally put Dorsky online, people are gonna watch it like ASMR, you know.
The godfather of ASMR.
I'll tell him about it. I don't know if he's gonna.
But Jorge, for you, I mean, you were talking about this situation, being, you know, overwhelmed by images, being on 3 channels at the same time while you're editing, and then, but you're using that and producing something that is made for the cinema screen. So your interest is in creating something for this concentrated situation, even though you are kind of using the kind of diffraction as a source in a way. Yeah. So, and that's also the sort of like, let's say the, no, I'm lacking the word. This is what you're going for. You wouldn't want, like, or are you also, would you also be interested in producing something that takes this form, you know, this dispersed form?
I love the theater room. That it's something that I'm very comfortable with, which is right now actually it becomes almost political to do a film for a theater cinema, because every time that I do a film, and I think about myself as a filmmaker who does very structural cinema and narrative. When I'm doing my films, I'm thinking that I'm doing narrative films. But every time that I do a film, I have this constant comment that my films should be more in a gallery than it should be on the cinema. And so when I'm saying that, for me, to produce a film for a theater room, that it's political, it's also because of that. It's because when I'm creating my projects, I'm working more with time than I'm working with space, if you can say that. Because when you have a video on or an installation in a gallery or in a museum, I think the relation with the space is much more intense than in cinema, that is more related with time.
As you said before, yeah.
Exactly, and so I feel that I need to be in a position that I want to say no, even if and you were saying that that in images on the internet you can, or in the television you can change them very, very fast, and actually in Supernatural I work a lot with that. I work with sequences that they are always changing and with different formats, so to have the same type of experience that you have in TikTok, discovering new medium and discovering new things. And when you see it in the theater room, I guess most of the people don't have the same type of relation with that. It's just boring, or it's just different to connect, or it's too much stuff. It's too much. It's hyper pop, or so it's strange that you have a different type of approach when you changing things by your own, and you don't. And I actually kind of like, and you were saying something similar, because in cinema you have the dictatorship of putting something to someone.
I want to maybe get back to this idea of, you know, the question of circulation, and I think Sílvia, you are basically taking matters in your own hands in a way. You are the co-founder of a traveling cinema that kind of tries to bring the type of cinema that we are speaking about here to audiences that might not be exposed to it, or that might not have access to it so easily. Yeah, maybe you can talk about that project a little bit.
Okay, it's, Cinema Fulgor is the name of the traveling cinema with mobile routes. It's in the region of Alentejo, southern Portugal, where the film that I'm making now brought me to live there, to film, and then to decide to choose to live in the countryside, and there's no cinema, and I always lived in cities and went to, you know, to the Cinematheque or the film museum almost every night, or I don't know, I was astonished to see that film is not part of people's lives there, and in most places perhaps. And so I also wanted to bring cinema, to change this, to make something to change this.
So you have a van and a projector, and you project films on film?
No, not yet, or maybe in the future. But I just got my driving license now.
Okay, so that's the beginning.
It's very recent. So the way we started is that we are 3 filmmakers, women filmmakers, Rosana Torres and Helena Inverno, and me. We live in 3 different parts of Alentejo, and so we started with screening the same film in these 3 different places.
Okay.
And then we have
was it 16 projector?
16 or digital.
Or digital.
When it's 16, we have to bring the projector, because there's no 16 in the theater, the theaters or the places the venues we screen. And so we have these monthly screenings where we screen films that have to do with the countryside or with the rural, or struggles for the territory, for land, for water, for as a starting point. We decided that it would be important to show that we wanted to show films about the countryside, from the whole history of cinema, and with different cine geographies, and that's it. And then we also have what we call in English maybe feral screenings, projeções bravias in Portuguese, that are screenings that happen more spontaneously and singular, one-time screening, that is by a riverside or I don't know, someone's living room or a field or.
Okay, so it's also about coming together and watching.
Always, I think cinema is also. I mean, it can be a very solitary experience.
Yeah, of course.
But
I see what you mean.
Your computer, for example.
But it's a collective. From the beginning, it's a collective experience, and that's. I don't want to watch films in my computer at home alone. I want it to be a collective experience.
Kind of a very sad experience,
Yes,
yeah,
I mean.
I agree. Yeah.
So that's really important, to bring cinema to people's lives, into a territory where there's no cinema, and mostly, or when there's cinema, it's commercial cinema or very conventional at least, or a certain canon of cinema, and we want to speak about the films, not just show films,
share about them.
To share, yes, to bring the filmmakers whenever we can bring the filmmakers. Of course, we are doing this with almost no funding so far. So it has been great that filmmakers want to come and join us from Italy. Elkmar Offer was recently with us from Sicily. Maria Rojas and André Jurado also last month. They were also Colombian filmmakers based in Lisbon. Now they were also with us, and that's really. I mean, we can offer hospitality, but we don't have much funding. But still, it's really worth. I mean, definitely, I think it's really worth doing this.
What have the reactions been so far? So how has it been taken up by the audience?
I mean, sometimes it varies on the film or on the circumstances, but we had 60 people already, about 60 people, and one screening we had one person, and we have, I don't know, 15, 20, 13 about this, but it has always been, with the exception of that one screening with just one person, it has always been really incredible to be able to discuss. And one screening was, I mean, to show Straubouillet for the first time. It's kind of a miracle somehow, the experience of and having people go through it and speak about it and reflect, and sometimes, yeah, I mean, it has been really a good experience so far, but I wish to also to have more means to bring films that often they are not in distribution, or people or cinematheques or film archives ask for so much money that it's impossible. And so I think there should be different prices also for, you know, a festival, a big festival, a museum, or a small, you know, traveling cinema. That is a really micro, but is doing really, I think, important political work.
Of course, I think so too. Especially in the countryside. I think there's a big difference if you do this in the countryside or rural areas or in cities. What do you think? This program, for example, you showed, I don't know, the last year, or could you also, would it be possible to show it, for example, here in Lisbon or in Berlin? What do you think? It's a completely, yeah, you can show it, but it's a completely different reception, right?
Yes. I mean, yes and no. There's a lot of work to be done, and also to reach local people, for the villagers, or because the countryside is also changing a lot.
Yeah, it's not about stereotypes about the countryside.
Yes, yes. I mean, there are many foreigners and many, you know, people like me who, you know, I always lived all my life. I lived in cities until I, you know, chose to live there before the pandemic. Because with the pandemic also many people decided to leave the cities, and those who could, I guess, and move to the countryside. But there's a lot to be done to reach. I think there's sometimes, I mean, we print posters. So it's very important that, as an analog person also, it's very important to have printed posters every time that we go over the village or the town and put in cafes and distribute. We also have, you know, Instagram, a web page, all that. But word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth, yes, thank you. In my English. Word of mouth works really well. Sometimes I have to really, you know, invite people so that they
Become friends.
Not just friends, people that when I'm putting the posters on, I speak to people. Oh, this is a cinema this Saturday. Why don't you come? And it's about this and that, and because many people think it's not for them.
Yeah.
No? Even if they see, well, these nice posters, it's definitely not for them. Or they cannot relate to it. Sometimes. And so there's a lot that it's also a learning experience for us in Cinema Fulgor, how to make films and show films in the countryside, and for whom the communities are different. There are several communities coexisting, not just
I think this work of also, I think I'm not mistaken when I say that the films that you make, they have the main part of their life is within the festivals, right? So they show in a lot of festivals, and there's this cycle of festivals, you know, that they show new films, and then they need the new films. And so institutions like Lightcone, or also Arsenal in Berlin, that organizes the Formex Planet that I work for, are trying to kind of maintain these films and have them also still be
isn't
available.
it interesting sometimes, this fashion phenomenon of certain films going to every single festival, but then 2 years afterwards they arrive at Lycon or at Arsenal, and then they never rent it.
But I think that's...
And some others, they don't go to festivals at all, and then 5 years later they become classics. They're rented every year like 10 times for the next 10 years.
But that's a function of them being also available, you know, that's, I mean, that's distribution in this field is something that is crucial, I think, also because it's not something that filmmakers can always do themselves, and it's good to have, you know, these spots where people who are seeking this out go to. But then there's also the question, and I think that's why this initiative is so great, you know, that there also need to be the venues that show these films, and not just in the cities where also the festivals happen. Right. So I don't know. I mean, you, Ulrich, you already said, you know, talked about your ambivalent, let's say, experience of showing your films in festivals, but that would be something also that I would be interested in hearing from you about this sort of economy of the festival circuit, and how that what implications that has for you as producers of the works also. Yeah. I don't know who wants to.
For us, it's absolutely good. I love it because it's way more efficient to show films for us, in our case, to show them in the festivals, because we have this point system in Germany, short film funding, and we didn't know that. We are making films now, I think, about over 10 years, and we get these informations, I think, maybe 2 years ago or something like that, because in the art field never told you about this film funding thing. No one told you. And so I'm really happy, and I'm really thankful for all the film festivals that have shown us and make it possible that our films get such a big audiences. I think that this wouldn't happen in the art scene, maybe one day or so, I don't know, but not in that Ausmaß.
Just maybe to explain further. So one of the funding schemes in Germany is like, if you are invited to certain festivals, you get points, and if you accrue enough points, then you get funding for that sort of almost like an. I mean, I don't know. It's maybe wrong.
Only in Germany. Yeah.
It's maybe a little bit too abbreviated, but it's almost kind of like an automatism. Like if you, so then you get a certain amount of money as funding. Yeah.
Be installed in other countries too, because it's really a good.
That's a good idea.
You heard it here first.
I think it's very perverse. I'm sorry. All this system.
No. It's not that perverse like it sounds, maybe, because it's too shortened. Because every people in, I think it works like that. Maybe we can cut that out later when it's wrong. I think it's everyone who is going to the cinema put a very small amount in this big
market.
Is that right? And this is the money where the money comes from, and it's isn't it right?
It's the percentage. So everybody, when he pays his ticket, puts like a little bit of money in the basket of that. Yeah.
But of course,
it's a little payback, but it's sehr fair aufgeteilt.
Yeah. It's, I mean, I guess you could say that it's maybe fair amongst sort of like those people who can claim it, but then being able to claim it is still predicated on being invited to the festival. And that's of course, the other hurdle that is installed there. And if we're speaking about this sort of self-perpetuating system of films, certain films going to every festival, it might also become a problem to actually access that being accepted into a festival and then finally having access to that type of funding. It's not the only funding possibility, of course, but it's one that's there. Yeah.
And it's only a very small part when you think about the big film fundings all over the world. This is such a small amount of money for short film. I'm talking about short film.
Mm-hmm. I mean, regarding festivals, I really think they need to change. All of this economy and the way films are shown and chosen and circulated. I mean, personally, and it was not always like this, but I guess I always felt a bit uncomfortable with the competition, with that showing a film in a festival, most festivals, no, there are others who are non-competitive. I just think it's wrong. We should not. Films should not be in competition with other films, and all this logic of premieres and the film in festivals, class A, class B.
I totally agree with you.
This has nothing to do with cinema.
Okay,
no,
sorry,
with films.
Only a short note. I wasn't talking about competition. It is only if your film is shown at the festival. Or is it always necessary to be in the competition to get a point?
It depends on the.
Okay,
festival,
you should know better.
Yeah. Well, if you're shown in
Is it? There is a system here which it's similar in a way.
Okay.
And you have to be in competition.
Okay.
But I've been, I totally agree with you 100%. I've been fighting against festivals for like the past 15 years. And there was a polemics here, apparently, you face that. Someone who made a film who put like this carton board saying stop putting friends in competition together or something like that.
Right.
You haven't heard about it? Yeah, here the premiere of the film was. Yeah, this is super perverse. But what she's telling is a different thing, because my fight was always about the fact that to enter this festival world, you need to pay fees. Submission fees, and if you
or be invited
in, but
you don't have to pay fees.
Yeah, some people, they're already in the system, so they're invited, there are fee waivers and stuff like that. But otherwise, the filmmakers, they pay fees. And if you want your film to circulate, you need to send it to like 50 festivals or something, which represent like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 euros. It's quite a bit of money in the end. And to get the privilege that a programmer is going to watch your film, but probably not select it. And then if you're selected, you're in competition, and so you're happy because your film is going to be shown, okay. But then the system is super capitalistic, because the film who is going to get the award is going to get everything. So it's really like the logics of the winner takes it all. So all the other films, they don't exist. And the winner who got the award, he gets all the money. And there's always this thing about, so you pay a fee at the beginning, but the person working for the festival, they get a salary. The projectionist, he gets paid. The people selling the tickets at the entrance, he gets paid. Everybody gets paid but the filmmaker. What kind of festival do you do without films or without filmmakers? So to me, the logic is like totally wrong. The first person who should get paid for making new films or for making new prints, like if you work analog, it costs you quite a bit, should be the filmmakers. So the logic is totally inversed.
It's like also in all cultural Einrichtungen.
Institutions, yeah.
So not that I want to.
No. But I mean,
I know you work for a film festival.
I agree that there's a problem with the remuneration of the filmmakers. I just also don't want us to forget that most of the festival workers work quite precariously as well, and there's a lot of unremunerated labor that goes into also putting on putting the structure in place that shows the film. So but of course, absolutely, agree with you that it's a bit lopsided that the filmmakers are not even in consideration in that regard.
Yeah.
And I guess it works for, it's especially, I think, problematic or a concern also within the field of this independent filmmaking that is done with very little to no money and sort of self-financed. Bigger productions, that's the logic that is applied to that. So bigger productions have that budget in there. They have that budgeted, right? Anyway, that they have money for promotion and this type of stuff. And it becomes complicated when that logic is applied to this other field within the cinema community. That is absolutely true. Yeah. So I think I think it should be like a sort of like an effort from all sides to kind of change that, because it's also working in the festival world. I also know how precarious that
and
is,
how difficult it is, and how many people work for free. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, how do we turn this around?
Are we done? Or?
I mean, well. On the side of the filmmakers, I think it's also up to us to refuse working and showing films in these conditions. No?
Yes, you're right.
In Cinema Fulgor, on the other side, we really wanted to show a certain film that we had read about, and it was really pertinent and meaningful, but it didn't have gone through the festivals yet. So it could not be shown in the countryside, in this small village.
Yeah, you have to give the priority to the festivals. It's crazy.
And it was a supposedly political filmmaker. And what about the politics of distribution or sharing? sharing the work or making the work visible in places where there are no film festivals. No, it's like
the whole festival premiere thing is
but that,
difficult to handle.
On the side of filmmakers, perhaps that's the first thing we need to say.
I agree. No, but when I guess you don't work with a producer. I'm not working with a producer. We work by ourselves. Mm-hmm. But some other people, they need to travel. They have like a production company, and we don't know how much pressure they have for them to get a premiere at the Berlinale or at an important festival. So they'd be very interested in projecting their films. In your mechanism, but the people behind, they say no way, you need to wait, and so it's really like intricated, and it's complicated to fight against that. Yeah,
I feel that to be political, we need to be privileged, and I believe that there are many people that they cannot say no, for example, and it's related with this pressure and this pressure of being successful, and I'm not saying that I believe in that. I'm saying that at the same time I understand a lot of people that they accept, for example, to have the premiere on a festival, but I can say that because I'm already a privilege to have to have some contacts, to have some to ask things. But there are people when they are, for example, when they are starting, that they are very afraid of not doing, of failing, and we also need to think about that. For example. In this film that I just did, we showed 2 versions of the editing in 2 places of Portugal, and what we did was that we called it premiere, or a pre-editing, or an editing, or changing the title, or
people do.
Yes, of course.
So I think it's very complex, and it goes beyond. The festivals, it goes much beyond the festivals. It goes from the central, where the money comes from. This and related to what we were saying, that the problem is that when you have success, you have even more success and even more success, and you don't stop if you go like that. And we need to find something that it's more horizontal, that it's not so vertical, that again the horizontal and the vertical images, but now in the society we need to find something that works for more people, and that more people have possibilities of working and showing, but it's very complex.
Yeah, and it's totally mixed up, I think, because also the short film funding I was talking about depends on the idea that a short film is only a short film because one day you will make a feature film.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the idea behind all that. And we as experimental artists took this money. We'll never make a feature film.
you take the money and run.
Out, please. So that's going on in Germany. And how are you doing this at Arsenal? Not at Arsenal, at Forum Expanded. Do the films have to be premieres?
Yeah.
Not in the sense that they have to be premieres. That is the thing. So we benefit. So maybe to explain a little bit. So Forum and Forum Expanded, those 2 sections of the Berlinale, are independently organized by Arsenal Institute for Film and Video Art, a Cinematheque space that also has a big film archive and runs a cinema in Berlin called the Arsenal. As such, but it's part of Berlinale, and Berlinale has what Sílvia was talking about, this A festival status, which comes with certain regulations and conditions that the festival has to abide by to keep the standard. One of them being the premieres. But this is mostly the case for the competitive sections. And there are certain competitive sections within the festival, of which Forum and Forum Expanded are not. So here the premieres are not as important, but it's still European premieres, not world premieres, which is still makes it, complicated. Especially if it's within this, there are people, of course, like if you are considering yourself a filmmaker, by a certain point you know about these rules, and you either, maybe reluctantly, but you kind of play by them, and then okay, so you're planning out your strategy, whatever, applying here first, and then there, and But lots of people also don't know that. Maybe people that come more from the art field, they're not as well versed in how festivals work, so it sometimes creates problems, and it creates problems also, of course, for the filmmakers who then have to make a decision, either go there or there. Whereas realistically speaking, the audiences are not like the overlap of audiences between the bigger festivals might be there in the professional field, but not so much in the audiences themselves. So it's sometimes, it's never great when we have to tell filmmakers that they have to make that decision, because they have also been invited to, let's say, Rotterdam Film Festival.
Locarno. Rotterdam is close, to Berlin.
Yeah. So, but also there, these rules are somewhat tied to the funding we get to do this. So it's sort of like it trickles down and it goes into all the different nooks and crannies of the system. And at the same time, also, I think the filmmakers that we are able to show, but then also benefit from being part of that Berlinale structure, because we have, just by virtue of being part of this enormous festival, we have a ready-made audience for these films, and we can try to expose people to stuff that is different from what's going on on the red carpet. So, and that's also what I see as one of our sort of tasks, that something that we provide within that festival. But all the criticism of how it works in the details, is very well taken. It's,
What about the art world? Is it better? I don't think so.
I do not know nothing about the art world. Not really. It's absolutely not better.
No, but it's not better at all.
Wherever you look, it's competition.
Yeah, and it's also the thing about, I don't know about your films that I've never seen, but about radical experimental cinema field that we promote and defend at Lycon. We feel that we're in between two big monsters, that is the market of fiction film, Hollywood, and this huge dinosaur, and on the other side, the contemporary art world. And every time we're trying to get funding, we go to a contemporary art place, and they're gonna tell us, well, no, you guys are doing cinema, you should go to the other door and over there. And then we go there, and they say, you guys are doing like art, it's not films, you should go to the other corridor. And it's just, so basically in the end you just get the crumbs of everything, if you get something.
That is also very related to the festivals. For some, I think many festivals, that I'm often feeling, for example, festivals who shows also narrative films and more artistic film or experimental film. That's often documentary. It's such a strange mix often, and I wish sometimes it would be more concentrated on the smaller fields, maybe.
I don't know about that, because we have like a few festivals that are more specific, showing analog films and stuff. But I was making some research recently for the 40 years of Lycon that we're gonna celebrate in June in Paris. I'm gonna show the Ballet Mécanique by Fernand Léger. And I made some research about how the film was shown at the time. And there's this cliché about the first avant-garde films from the 20s, with like Dulac and Chaumet and then Man Ray and Fernand Léger and Duchamp all together. But for instance, Fernand Léger, he had like the same conception of cinema as Kubelka. Kubelka, you know, he says, I'm not doing experimental films. You guys are doing commercial films. I'm just making films. So this way of seeing different forms of cinema as being the same thing. And the Ballet Mécanique, for instance, we're gonna reproduce the premiere of the Ballet Mécanique. The word probably didn't exist at the time, but which happened not in Paris but in Vienna, strangely. And Fernand Léger liked showing his own film. So Ballet Mécanique is like the monument of avant-garde film, with like a Charlot from the 10s and a Commandant film, scientific film about the circulation of blood in some strange insects. And going with like an animation film, we're also showing a Western from the 1912 shot in Camargue in the south of France. So all types of cinema. It's going to be fun and I think interesting to consider cinema as a whole in itself.
I agree with that.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, and at their best, maybe festivals can be a place where that happens.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's on all of us to make sure that they are and stay that way.
Let's make the world better.
Yes. Shall we wrap it up?
Yeah.
Yes?
I think so.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
It was
you.
very nice
Thanks
talking
to
to
you. You were well moderated.
I'm just as much a guest as you are. Thank you to the festival for setting this up, and thanks for listening, I guess.
Thank you. Bye-bye.